Hello and welcome to another video. Today I found a random Evelyn main, it's like gold 4, that we're gonna view a game from and see how are they struggling so much. Maybe that helps the rest of you. A little bit, a little tiny bit. Alright, so if we start this off, what are we really hoping for here? I mean, level 1 you just wanna cover something. This way of covering is quite questionable, as if the team with Pike comes behind this wall, you are a bit fucked. Like, if Pike shows up like this, you will only see him here. And if you see him like here somewhere, it's kind of too late for you to do anything if they actually find out that you're in here. If they guess that you're in here, like Camille can just E this wall and E into you. Camille could like E from here and E into you. They could like cook you from here. They could like ward this and do whatever and so on. So quite a questionable bush to stand in. I think a safer place to stand is like somewhere over here. You're gonna end up seeing the enemies come from here, so you're gonna be chilling. And as long as your mid lane is not completely AFK, this is not an angle. And here you're gonna see them early enough, so that is kind of being chilling. Not the biggest fan of where he stands, but I don't know, maybe he's making coffee or something. Yeah, so he starts red buff and clears that. Realistically, in these comps, what are you hoping to achieve? Well, if we look, right, who can really carry the game for each team is the question that you should ask yourself first. So if I'm Evelyn here, I'm thinking, okay, well, I can carry the game. I don't think... Well, Volibear can carry the game, because making Volibear really ahead will also mean that Camille is really behind. If Camille is really behind and Volibear is really ahead, then he stat checks Jinx. He doesn't really care about Pike so much. Syndra and Viego can do some stuff, but as long as they're not like super fed, they won't really move the Volibear. Okay. Swain. The problem with Swain is that Jinx and Camille can actually kill him, even if he's fed, so can be a bit problematic for him trying to carry. Jhin is not really the champion I would look to carry this game toward. Viego goes invis and jumps on him, so it can be a bit difficult to play. Pike goes invis and jumps on him, like Camille dives in on him. I wouldn't really look for my support to carry the game. So realistically, it's either going to be the Evelynn or the Volibear. So with that, we instantly know that playing towards top lane from a team-based perspective is going to be more interesting for us. Though on these champions like Evelynn, who are scaling and whatever, and where you usually can be the win con, you try to play towards the lane where you have CC and where you can get kills. So the easiest lane to get kills in this game is also top lane. So pathing towards bot lane is a really interesting choice. Right. What about for the enemy team? Who can carry the game for them? The worst case scenario for the enemy team is that Evelynn or Volibear are fed, right? So who can really answer that? Syndra, if she's really fed, can answer it. Okay. Camille can answer it if she's really fed. Viego, probably. And what about if the Wayne and Jhin are fed, right? It's still the same champions can answer it really well. Obviously, Jinx is nice. Jinx can like carry games and so on. But Jinx is gonna need someone to help her. If we're looking towards someone who can carry the game and who is really important, I would say it's Camille. So right from the get-go, both junglers should be thinking that in this game, themselves and their top laner, that's going to be the most important part of the game. So Viego starting on bot side and moving towards top, and Evelynn is doing the opposite, which is interesting. in that sense. You can already see this is suboptimal kiting because she decided to kite it to the left for no reason and then kiting back to the right, and that'll end up losing her time. She also lost some time when she was moving through mid. But why did she do this movement when she walked through mid? So if we look at this, right? Didn't really expect a gank or anything in mid. Like, it's not like she pinged anything. She didn't really posture for it or anything. So she saw that Viego's mid, reacted to it now, and she was like, oh, okay, I'll move now. Realistically, if you expect ganks like these, then normally what you do is either you ping it, okay, or in these scenarios, when stuff like this is happening, right, when the wave is like this, horror bad for your mid laner, the adaptation that you can do is you can pull the raptors up and you can walk through here. The mid laner is so far up that this is where you get proximity to him. And you want to have proximity to him so that if something does happen, you are faster on answering it. This also dissuades any kind of gank, as you know that they warded your raptors. And you don't even need to know how long the ward lasts, because these days Riot just marks the ward for you until it times out. So that's just something that you can use in your own games. In general, if you believe that someone might get ganked or something, you can just take a slightly longer route, which will allow you to be slightly closer to them, which will in turn turn some games for you. Okay. Also, suboptimal kiting yet again, and clearing. Not the biggest fan of this clear. I can tell you straight up, she's late by at least like 15 seconds minimum, which is just not good. She's finishing her clear after 3:30. Oh, yo, she's finishing in like 3:35. Okay, you can say that, oh yeah, she turned here a bit for her lane or whatever. That's really not why she's finishing the clear at 3:35. It's because she kited this wrong, she used her spells badly, she kited this wrong, she probably kited something here wrong. We could go into her clear in depth, but it's just why. Like, I made multiple videos on how to clear, so you don't really need that. So at this point, you finish your full clear, right? And you get into river, and instantly, already before you're here, you should have been asking yourself, what should I do when I get to river? But now you should instantly be making a decision. So right now, the question is, okay, what is the intention of every laner? So if we look at here, this guy's wave is interesting. He can leave it, and he can just base TP if he wants to, which is okay. He can do that, I suppose. And these guys' wave is kind of interesting as well. It looks like Jinx and Pyke want to push, which is quite interesting. And these two are like half HP. We also notice Jinx has no mana, so we're not afraid of any spells coming out of Jinx, especially not the chompers, if we do gank it. And Pyke has pretty low HP, so maybe he is one-shottable. So you might think that mid lane is easier to gank here. It's an immobile mage, like we're chilling. The main issue with mid lane is that if it's not extremely low elo, she would just walk away, base, and TP back to lane. Or walk back to lane, depends. But the main issue with staying for her is that, in general, the Swain will base no matter what, right? Because he's so low HP. So Swain will base, and he will TP back to lane anyway. So there's no way that he's staying in lane. So if you want to kill her, you have to kill her now. Though these people usually do stay in lane until they realize that the enemy laner actually is base TPing. But yeah. Oh, she didn't crash the wave. Then she's like chilling here. Enemy jungler should be realizing that Evelynn full cleared and she's bot side, right? So at least ping your mid laner or something. And if not, then try to counter it. Pretty good pull on the, or well, push, I suppose I should say, on the scuttle towards the mid lane. And he is covering the gank, but he's choosing to finish the scuttle before he does anything for his mid laner, which is not the best. Usually want to just help your laners instantly. And he even has smite, so he could have just smited the scuttle and just ran there, but okay, I suppose. Evelynn shouldn't really get a flash trade here. But yeah, I would say that this is a misread of the map, as Syndra doesn't really need to stay here. She doesn't need to do anything. She can also walk away anytime she wants. The only real reason to stay here as Syndra is if you have this warded already. And you can't still go mid if there's like nothing in any other lane, right? I'm not saying you can't go mid. I'm just saying that if there's something better anywhere else, I would just go there. And this looks better to me in terms of gankability. So if I do the scuttle and then I walk through here, then I walk like this. Obviously, you don't want to walk like this, preferably, because they're probably gonna ward somewhere, right? They either ward here, or they ward this bush, or they ward this bush or something. And that means that at some point you're gonna walk over a ward from there, right? Preferably you would already be looking during your clear how the people are laning, and then you would know where the wards are. But you should at least take an interesting path, mostly because it doesn't cost you anything either, because you can just do the scuttle while you go like this and then just walk like this and you're chilling. Sometimes you're gonna just walk straight though. It just depends on the timings and stuff. Like if these guys were more pushed up or whatever, or you needed to be here like really quickly, you could still walk through here. So I would say this is kind of missed. Don't really see why we wouldn't show up here at some point. But alright. Sometimes you're gonna miss an opportunity. So then she bases, she buys boots and dark seal. So the thing with buys and itemization on Evelynn is to realize that there are different types of games, right? And depending on what kind of a game it is, you want to buy different items. So when you're buying boots and dark seal, you're basically saying, I need to be everywhere and I will get rewarded with kills. But realistically, mid lane is not that easy to kill unless she's inting. She doesn't have flash, which is good, but other than that, Top lane is relatively killable at some points, but we're pathing away from top lane. So maybe if we do like 2 camps or something and run top, or just run top after 1 camp or something, maybe. But then bot lane again is Pyke is pretty difficult to kill at some points, though we do have Poppy, which will stop him from Eing. So, okay. And Jinx is immobile, but realistically, are we really farming kills here? I don't know. I wouldn't really say so, so I would prefer to buy AP components. And with buying AP components, we would end up with a better clear. The dynamic here is that the more AP you buy, the faster you will clear, obviously. And the more movement speed and Dark Seal and Magi and whatever the fuck else you buy, the more you will snowball and try to kill the enemy. Also don't like this pink ward. I don't really see what the value of it is. For control wards, I mostly prefer them as combat control wards. What this would mean is you buy them after your mythic is complete. So after your mythic is complete, you make sure that you always have like 1 control ward in your inventory, but you don't use them and you don't spam them. You only say, okay, I'm invading, I need vision in this bush or something, I will use it. I'm invading, I want to deny vision. Like, there are 2 kind of scenarios really here that I'm thinking of. So Firstly, maybe you like walk like this, and now you're like sitting in this bush and like waiting for the enemy. You don't have sweeper or something. Okay, you can place a control ward and you can find out if this is warded. Secondly, maybe you already got here, maybe the enemy's already here, right? You go on them, and then they jump into this bush or flash into it or something. You pink ward that so you get vision. Maybe they got you low, so you flash away into this bush. You pink ward it so that they don't have vision, and so on. That's what I mean by combat control wards. Also, imagine that it's ocean map, right? So this is like a big bush, and I don't know, there are like more bushes here and so on, right? Like you place a pink ward into this bush that is spanning this whole area, right? And suddenly, either the enemy team can't play or your team can play really easily depending on which team you are, right? And you're just thinking to yourself like, wow, I placed a control ward for 75 gold, and now suddenly the fight is 500 times easier to play. And that's OP. I don't like control wards just randomly placed on the map though, and hoping they get vision. Not the biggest fan of that. You can do that. You can place like one, for example, like here, and then you're going to be 10 times safer from invades if you place a control ward here. Or you can place one like here, and it makes you safer from invades. You can place one in these river bushes, but I wouldn't invest a lot of gold into these. Like, you can buy one of these, like right now she did, and you just place that and you don't really bother with it again. So she is choosing to full clear again. I don't like these kinds of clears where you do like a full clear into scuttle, into base, into full clear again. I think whenever you're forced to do stuff like this, you should go into your replay and you should figure out why was I forced to full clear 2 times in a row. Because we hate doing this. We do not like it. So there wasn't really too much to do on top. Maybe you could try to dive it or something, but whatever. Honestly, our timings would have been 10 times better if we started bot side and went top lane, so we could have ganked early, we could have dove, whatever. But okay. So she goes mid to stop the Viego. She gets a free kill. And now your mentality after you get a free kill like this, it should really be, how do I capitalize on this the most that I can? So you want to make sure that you need the least amount of gold and XP as a lead to be able to completely 1v9 the game consistently. That's how you end up winning a lot. So this, in my opinion, this game state is auto win if I'm looking at it. Like if I'm playing this game, this is an auto win for me. So I don't think the enemy team can play anymore. So my top lane is doing good, but even if my top lane wasn't doing so well, like let's say that the top lane was even, like I would still consider this pretty much free win. Mostly because I have a very simple pattern I can follow here. So what I can do here is do the scuttle. That'll give me level 6. Then I can go invade. If the Viego shows up at his red buff, I will kill him. If he doesn't show up at his red buff, okay, I will take his red buff. That means that he went top side, right? In which case I will probably go mid. I will gank mid since she is flashless and Syndra earlier on in the game. The Viego will probably show up either mid or go to his bot side camps. If he shows up mid, then I will try to fight 2v2. I should be 10 times stronger because he should not be very strong compared to me. I'm level 6 evelynn, so I am a fister, and Swain should be like pretty decent as well. Earlier on, I think in the game he should be stronger than Syndra. And if he chooses the other option, which is to go Raptors and Krugs, what I will choose is to walk to these camps again and try to kill him. Let's see what our evelynn did. She decided to do Scuttle and then Dragon, I'm guessing. Voice. So as you can see, she is now, well, before she started Dragon, she was like full HP. She had 50 AP, she was level 6. look what Viego did. He walked to his red buff. Like right now, I would be on his red buff, and I would try to kill him. This would be a free kill for me, and once he dies on this red buff, I would say that the game is completely over for him, because after he dies on this red buff, most likely you can kill him without even using your ult, if you play it well. If not, okay, you use your ult. After that, I would most likely go mid lane, seeing as she's pushing up, and then I would transition to whatever is good after that. If mid lane was not pushing up, let's say that I had private mid, and let's say my bot lane was also pushing, I would probably just recall after red. I would get my items, and then I would go to top side, where the herald is spawning, and where I know he has camps. He probably already finished the camps by the time that I am getting here, or is finishing them, so I won't really get an invade timing. If I want another invade timing, I should go bot side again, but mostly I just want to take this herald so that I can open up the map any way I want. This is if I use my ult, right? If I didn't use my ult, then I would play a bit more aggressive, so I would look for another invade probably. Or more ganks or whatever else. Just look for a play. So as you can see, they did get the dragon. Oh, wait, no, enemy got the dragon. Which is even worse, but even if they got the dragon, I don't really consider this a worthwhile trade, as now the enemy jungler gets to play the game for no reason. So now, she used her ult, which really sucks. So she should clear a few camps, because you should play off your ult cooldown. We can look for some free ganks to be won, where we know the enemy jungler won't show up, but not too much to do. But she can look for herald here if she wants to. She bought, I think, another pink ward. Maybe it's the same pink ward from before, I don't know. And then she placed it on herald. Interesting choice. That's a very interesting way to gank. Okay, so the issue with this gank is that you don't really know where Viego is, so you could just walk into him at some point. But okay. Sure. But again, you don't really know where Viego is, and if you walk into him at some point, you could die. But okay. Sure. She got some stuff done, but let's be honest here, it is a bit random running around the map and hoping that stuff works out. I think that the stuff that I talked about is a bit more consistent, right? Because as you could see, I laid out a whole game plan based on each response by the enemy, right? And what I can do. While when you look at this, you already know that there's no way that she knew that the stuff that happened will happen, say, like a 30 seconds in advance or a minute in advance or something like that. Because it's kind of obvious what the enemy will have to do when you do certain things. For example, when I invade enemy red buff, it makes the enemy respond to me, right? Because I am actually interacting with them. If I do my own full clear, then the enemy can do whatever they want because I'm not actually interacting with them. While if I'm in their jungle, they have to interact with me in some way. Or I mean, I guess they can just lose as well. Just die. That's 2 camps, and waiting for ult is fine. I think she has a decent amount of gold though. Yeah. So she should be looking for a base. She does look for a base, pretty good. We do have the issue of the enemy jungler having the first item complete. And then she runs straight to bot lane. Why? Well, she's thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna run to bot lane, I'm gonna get some kills, and I love kills, and kills are the best. But, like, okay, and what do you do if enemy bot lane just bases or something while their jungler's upside? Like, be depressed and lose her? Realistically, you can look for the scuttles, you can look for Viego, you can look for this herald, and it's gonna be really consistent, while this is gonna be extremely inconsistent. Like, there's no way you can know what the bot lane will look like I don't know, 30 seconds when you walk here. Let's say that it works out, but honestly, like, would you even say that this worked out? Why does Viego get to take these camps? He gets to take this Scuttle. He could take this Herald. He could gank my top laner. This is everything we're giving up for this gank. When Pyke is low HP even, so it makes more sense for him to base anyway. It's just quite nonsensical and inconsistent gameplay. Which is pretty much a pattern with lower elo junglers and evelynn players and whatever. Like, the biggest issues really are always going to be clearing and not understanding what your champion does and inconsistent gameplay. So because there is no consistency in her gameplay, she ends up either killing the enemy bot lane and getting a double kill. She suddenly snowballs, she goes 20 kills, she feels good about herself. Next game they pace, she doesn't kill them, she doesn't snowball, she gets 0 kills, enemy jungle is like farming, he's chilling, ping chilling, and now she goes like 10 and 10, and she loses the game, and she thinks, wow, I'm so bad, or my teammates are so bad. The next game, the same thing happens again, where she goes 20 kills, and then so on. Not the best. Especially because you play for yourself, so you should kind of assume that your teammates will underperform a little bit, since the enemy jungler is most likely helping his laners, and you're not really helping them so much in the earlier stages of the game. So if you look at Viego, he's not really worried about Evelynn anyway, and this is a problem, right? Then, because he got to play the game, he actually has the chance to come back whenever he gets 1 or 2 kills. And this is a very bad approach to the game, because it means that you're always having to worry about the enemy jungler, always having to worry about the enemy laners, always having to worry about everyone, because you didn't actually do what you can do. Because if we actually took the opportunities that I talked about, Viego would be like, I don't know, 0-5 or something, no? With no farm. And we would have cocaine farm. That means it's very hard for him to kill us. Even if he does kill us, he's still behind. Because if you look now, like, okay, he killed us once. And I mean, sure, he's down a bit of gold, but he's probably honestly like even. Pretty much. Okay, he's down, like, I don't know, less than half a level and 700 gold. Really, considering the way this game has been going, it's not bad at all. He gets another dragon as well. So he stacks dragon wincon on top of being in a fine position. So, pretty interesting. What ends up happening in this game is that evelynn gets Magi and starts building towards Lich Bane. Lich Bane is useless second item, but okay, it's just for fun. Then she dies a few times, and suddenly the game is very unplayable. A few throws, top laners both being a bit 1v9. A few more throws, and suddenly the enemy team is on soul point. The enemy top laner is 1v9. The enemy jungler is fisting. We are useless. The game is unplayable. Then the enemy has soul. We're still trying to play. You might think, but I'm trying my best. I did better than enemy jungle early game, but did you? You have to always realize this. While it may look like you did better than the enemy jungler based on stats, right? It doesn't mean that you did do better. There's always the context of what the position is, what free stuff you got, what free stuff he got, what champions you're playing, and so on. So at the end of the day, you really have to evaluate these things in terms of what did I really achieve, and did the enemy get to play the game, and did I get a lead, right? Because if the enemy gets a free lead, of course, like, you're not always going to be able to kill the enemy jungler. If he gets 3 kills, he's suddenly ahead of you in both items and levels. You pink wards this, so you can't invade, and so on. Like, sure, you're not gonna get to make a sizable lead, but it doesn't really happen in these elos, so you don't really need to worry about it too much. But you can clearly see that this guy doesn't understand his champion's game plan. So firstly, he needs to start understanding how to clear his champ, and so on, because as I said, you're losing so much by not being able to do that. Because if you lose 20 seconds in your first clear, you're losing, let's say, 300 gold, and maybe opportunity cost as well or something. And then, okay, on your next clear, you're 20 seconds late again, and then your next clear, 20 seconds late again. And suddenly a minute of the game has just passed without you doing anything. Like, if you're losing time on every clear, if you lose 1 minute over the course of a game, you have to realize that is equivalent to you just getting 6, like being invis, and you just stand in a lane for 1 minute. That's pretty much equivalent. It's not really that much of a difference. But would you really think that that's a good idea? I wouldn't really think that's a good idea, right? Because we're not getting anything when we're standing in the lane for 1 minute. But here, you're basically just doing that because you are unable to clear. This is why clearing is so important, because I don't really want to stand in a lane for 1 minute AFK. And the worst part is I don't even have the chance to get a kill. At least if I stand AFK in a lane, maybe I'll get a kill. Then after that, the issue is also not understanding how the lanes work. But okay, you can kind of get away with that on evelynn since you're always the win con. So as long as you're pathing towards some kind of CC and where you think you can get kills, that's going to be pretty okay. But what he did when he got level 6, that's kind of disastrous gameplay. Because you, again, need to understand what your champion does and what your identity is. Your champion is amazing at invading. Why? Because you perma-invis. If you farm, enemy doesn't know where you are. If you're invading, the enemy can't play the game. When the enemy jungler is trying to play the game, this is what always happens. So they go to their camp, and they use their spells, right? But if you look at their spells, his E is currently in use, but it's a 14 seconds cooldown. His W is on a 6-second cooldown. His Q is on a 4-second cooldown. Imagine if you, as evelynn, show up next to him right now, press W on him, and just stand in his face. What does he do? He can only press ult, right? Because he can't Q you, he can't W you, he can't auto-attack you with high attack speed from his E. All he can do is either just right-click you or press ult. And this is why invading on this champ is so good, because you can always wait for the enemy's key spell or for them to use every spell. And as long as you kind of have a general idea of the champion dynamics between your champion and the enemy champion, you're going to be fisting. So then, what is the point here? When you understand that your champion is very good at invading and very strong with your ult, you will play around those two things. The dynamic in League is usually, if my laners are pushing, I invade. Or I dive. If my laners are getting pushed in, I will gank or farm. That's kind of the idea, right? So the idea with that is also, if my laner is pushed in, when I gank it, they will start pushing, right? Because the enemy will back off, so my laner can push. When my laner is pushing, I can invade. So sometimes you're gonna end up ganking, and then you're gonna end up invading. So maybe you do this red buff, then you walk mid, you gank this, that guy will then have prio, this guy already has prio, and then you walk to their blue side, you know, as an example. Obviously, I don't think that that's a very good invade here. As the Viego, I think he got spotted in the bottom lane. So you kind of know, I think he's here. From this ward, maybe? Maybe he didn't get spotted, who knows? Okay, he did. I know he's there, so there's no point. You could just go Herald as well. But let's say he didn't get spotted and you think Viego's on his blue side. You could do this, right? walk mid, gank it, get to prio, go invade. If you don't have prio and you need it, in say 30 seconds or a minute, you can just make your own prio. Instead of complaining about, my teammates have no prio, my teammates are useless, my teammates are that and that and that. It's not complaint meta. It's 1v9 meta. You either live as a king or you become a horse. Remember that. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. If you enjoyed the video, then like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Peace.